Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of F1 My Team Career Mode here on the channel. Hope you're all having a great day. If I sound a little bit different, I actually got a new mic, or the same mic, but just a new mic at the same time, if you kind of know what I mean here, as we are coming through into the Mexican GP this weekend here. Very excited for this one, actually in F1 2021. This is the home of our first ever Grand Prix victory with Aston Martin, and which was a very lucky day for us to get that win at the time. But nonetheless, a track that holds a special place in my heart here from last season's game. Very excited though for this one this time around, hoping that we can replicate some of that good fortune here into our track host team this time around as well. Not looking for a race victory, but if we can have some maybe luck on our side and maybe allow us to score a point or two, I would be pretty ecstatic with that. So nonetheless though, I mean, we have given up R&D late in this season here on this progression with this car, so we've really focused on season 2, and I feel like season 2 we got a really big opportunity to make some big gains with this Trackhouse Racing team, and hopefully we can become a midfield threat and maybe a very odd occasional podium threat if some chaotic races take place next season like we've seen in this season. But ever since Charles Leclerc locked up the championship in Singapore, it's been an interesting kind of twist of races here now, as things have actually, instead of what I thought was going to maybe take off in chaos, it's kind of calmed down actually. So we'll see how things are here today in Mexico, but we'll have to wait and see, of course, with potential grid penalties. There's been a lot of grid penalties handed out lately here, and that's really been giving the opportunity to have things shake up here in the finishing order. I mean, you look back at Singapore specifically, and we saw Mercedes get the first and only win so far this season, with George Russell picking up his first win in Formula 1 as well. Lando Norris was even on the podium there, which was pretty crazy for the McLaren team. We don't expect them to be on the podium, although they are making gains. This is on the latest patch. A new patch came out the other day on Steam, so we are back on it. I apologize for the lack of videos over the last few days with specifically F1, but I've been really busy here, and then the whole mic issue that I was having as well. So nonetheless, we are back, and hopefully we can crank out the final couple episodes of this season and then move on into season 2. We're gonna have a brand new livery, by the way, for season 2 that I can't wait for you guys to see. Similar to the one we already have, Trackhouse branding still on the car, same color scheme, just a little bit different that Sanok made. But we come through into Q1 here now, looking for the best lap down that I can put down here, and I was overall gelling with the track pretty well here, and you're gonna come through to see myself, of course, set a pretty standard lap 1, not that great, but certainly not terrible. Now lap 2 would get a little bit spicy here as I was closing in on the back of Fernando Alonso at the start of my lap in the Alpine. He does not move, and I invalidate my lap time in the process, but I was certainly, as you can imagine, not very impressed with Fernando here as I kind of swerve at him a little bit there, and then actually we come through to start our lap again, and Fernando's gonna come back at us here. He's gonna battle to my left side and take us wheel to wheel. Ricardo was even nearly up my inside of the McLaren, so I'm not letting Fernando get ahead of me. So I said, you know what, I'm just gonna ruin your lap because you already ruined my first attempt. But we actually managed to still go better than our previous first lap here, as we would make up all the time we lost, especially through this S's section, and then we gained a good chunk right there on the right-hander, actually about 3/10 extra of a second in this final sector was really where I lost the time, as you could tell in that first lap, and I gave up a little bit of time right there, but we gained a little bit back, and it's going to be about just shy of half a second better. We crossed the line. We know it's not going to be a good overall starting position here with the straight line speed disadvantage that we have in this car, and then against the LPAI, and you can see our team at a Piastri up there in P19. We get P21 in front of the Williams of Nicholas Latifi. A 5 grid place penalty already for Esteban Ocon, actually, for a collision with Alex Albon, so that's an interesting one to take there from Ocon. But nonetheless, let's head to the grid here in Mexico.
It's time then for the Mexico City Grand Prix, a race which gave Honda their first ever victory back in 1965. American Richie Ginther winning from third on the grid. Red Bull have been strong here in recent seasons, but can they keep that record going today? At 2,285 metres above sea level, the thin air of the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez poses a unique challenge, not just to a driver's skill, but to the efficiency of their engines as well. 17 corners then make a lap of this 2.6-mile circuit. Expect incredible speeds in excess of 220 miles per hour, and overtaking into the braking zones of Turn 1 and Turn 4. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. It's Sergio Perez on pole today, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Fernando Alonso, Russell, Mick Schumacher, and Joe. Stroll, Sainz. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Hamilton and Daniel Ricciardo. Vettel, Leclerc. Yuki Tsunoda. They've taken a grid penalty. And Gasly. Norris, Golden Boy. Esteban Ocon. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And Kevin Magnussen. Oscar Piastri, Albon. Latifi and Max Verstappen completes the grid. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track. Anthony Davidson, a very warm welcome to you as you join me in the commentary box for today's event. Now, let's talk about Charles Leclerc. What a season they've had, a well-deserved championship victory, and the pressure now is surely off with the title already in the bag.
It really is well-deserved. I wouldn't say it's been a faultless title challenge, but certainly one that has been consistent and well-managed. Here's hoping they let off a bit of steam today and give us an exciting race.
Ready to go. Lights out here in Mexico now. As you can see, I put a whole extra lap of fuel in the car to hopefully not have to deal with running out of fuel issues that we've been kind of seeing over the last couple of Grand Prix. So I put in quite a bit of extra fuel this time around, hoping that's going to do the trick, and I was pretty confident it would this time around. But you saw the grid penalties, by the way. Again, a lot of grid penalties being handed out, and that improved us up to P16 instead of P21, and even in front of our teammate now of Oscar Piastri now. So nonetheless, looking just for a strong day. Hopefully, like I said, we get some luck on our side. Perez up on the front row leading in his home Grand Prix. It's going to be 5 red lights here, and we are lights out and underway from the Mexican Grand Prix here now as we get a very nice launch there off the grid. Perez over Valtteri Bottas on the front row. Alonso's up here as well, and don't rule out George Russell up in the mix here now. Perez with a bit of a defensive move right there. You got the Haas actually of Mick Schumacher sending one up the inside. Look at second, third, and fourth right here. These are not cars we expect to see up there. Fernando Alonso in his final Mexican Grand Prix. We know he is retiring at the conclusion of the season after today. Just 2 races left in his career. And like I said, I want Fernando to get at least 1 podium before he retires. He is driving like he wants to do that here today. Now, as he is now trying to go the long way around the outside of Valtteri Bottas in the Alfa Romeo, not going to happen. Alonso will settle into that 3rd position now. Unfortunately, not severe enough grid penalties for the Ferraris and as well as maybe the Mercedes. So it's going to be difficult, I think, for Alonso to be able to get a podium here today. But never say never. We never know what's going to happen. Mexico, sometimes this circuit really opens the door for some chaos to unleash, especially through this right here, this section, the S's. And you saw some contact right there between Kevin Magnussen as well as Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri and the Haas. And Magnussen is going to have to come into the pit lane at the conclusion of the lap, but he's not done fighting. He's going to launch one up the inside into the final sector here. And everyone just going at it on this opening lap here. One of the more, I think, exciting opening laps that I think I have seen here in this F1 22 My Team career mode so far. But you can see Verstappen all the way down the order with that grid penalty. But we had quite a few cars pitting here at the end of the lap. There was the Haas. We have an Alpine of Esteban Ocon, as well as Lando Norris and our teammate of Oscar Piastri all picked up wing damage here, unfortunately. So they all headed to the pit lane. 4 cars on this opening lap. Nonetheless, though, I mean, we had a pretty solid lap. We're up into 14th place, and obviously 3 or so cars in front of us pitting does help. But Pierre Gasly, actually, I was able to get past. He was able to get back past me, though, as we came through the lap 3 with the DRS now enabled. He did not have DRS at that point, but Schumacher here scrapping it out on lap 4, actually, with Carlos Sainz. Was trying to hold him off. Not quite going to happen, and actually battles going on up towards the front here. Here's Alonso again, putting the fight to Valtteri Bottas here now as they head down into that heavy braking zone, into that 90-degree left-hander, and you can see in the background as well, George Russell scrapping it out with Mick Schumacher. So Schumacher lost the spot to the Spaniard of Sainz, and now is about to lose out to the British driver of Russell as well. Yes, he does. So very unfortunate there, but like I said, nice battles going on all over the circuit. Now Verstappen, during that whole battle, was actually able to get past myself as well. So we dropped back down to P16, and that straight line issue was certainly being shown off at this point here. The AI have unbelievable straight line speed, as you guys know by now if you're watching any My Team career mode here in F1 22. So that was a little bit frustrating, but there's nothing that we can really do about it other than just hope for the best and just do what we can, as actually get a bit of a warning right there for exceeding track limits now. But we continue to just try and maintain a gap with Pierre Gasly, and there was actually a bit of a train being formed in front of us. But then look in the right side at the field. We're only plus 0.6 laps. We've already burned through a lap of fuel. in 10 laps. That is concerning. I immediately realized at the rate that we're putting down, to the pace we're putting down, we are not going to have enough fuel again to make it to the end of this race after putting over an extra lap of fuel in the car at the beginning of this GP. Now, one of the next upgrades to our car that is coming is actually going to be fuel efficiency, so that will basically solve the problem. But for this race, for Brazil at least, and maybe even Abu Dhabi as well, we are still going to be dealing with this fuel issue. And I had to start backing off the pace, and I gave up a ton of time to gas. I fell out of the DRS because I was trying to save fuel again, and it's so annoying having to save fuel. And I was down to 0.3 extra laps of fuel by the time I came to the lap 17, coming into the pit lane as well, actually, for a first and only pit stop onto the hard compound tire. But I gave up about 3 seconds of time just about here trying to save fuel, and the way I'm doing it is usual. You just kind of lift and coast into the corner. A very common kind of strategy you see in NASCAR when they're trying to save fuel there. But now on the hard compound tire, swerving all over the circuit here, trying to be able to get these tires warmed up, and we only have, what, 20 laps remaining in this Grand Prix, so we're running at a time pretty quick, and unfortunately it hasn't been the chaotic Grand Prix that I was kind of hoping it was going to be, because I mean, I know we need chaotic Grand Prix to really give us a chance to do anything here, as Perez comes into the pit lane now leading the race, and he has such a large lead and he's absolutely dominating. He's hoping for nothing to go wrong here in terms of safety cars and whatnot, but George Russell's in, Zhou Guanyu, etc., and Zhou Guanyu's having a solid run here today in the Alfa Romeo, looking for some more points. Schumacher as well, don't rule out Schumacher here for a strong competitive, maybe even close to a top 5 finish here, depending on how everything plays out. But by the time we came to the lap 19, I was now 7 seconds behind Gasly, and Alex Albon, who was 6 seconds behind at the start of the pit cycle, is within DRS range, and actually he was about to pass me, and he would get the opportunity right here down the front straightaway. How did he gain 6 seconds? I know I was saving fuel, I know I had the cold tire disadvantage there on the hards, but I didn't think I gave up 6 seconds to Alex Albon, but apparently I did, because he was able to go right on past me there. So the Williams takes the position down to 17th place we go. Now we got a McLaren of Norris, who we know is for sure faster, running us down now on lap 22 plus 0.27 laps of fuel. We are quickly wearing down this fuel, and I knew we could not push at this point. We have to be in save mode, and well, someone that's not saving is Alex Albon there. He was being a little bit too aggressive. He loops it around there on the exit of turn 1, so there's a free spot to us. He would get it back going very, very quick though. Recovered it well now as we continue to wear this thing down on field, plus 0.21 now. So like I said, I couldn't push. I was in full save mode at this point in the Grand Prix, just doing everything I can to lift and coast now as we get a little bit of a late race update. Perez continuing to lead by 9.5 seconds over Carlos Sainz, and Russell, who goes around in turn 1, and Alonso's gonna pile into the back of the British driver in the Mercedes, and I believe Bottas as well piled in there. The safety car immediately comes out on board with Russell, who loses it just like Albon did in front of us earlier. Alonso nowhere to go. Bottas, same situation. The Haas of Schumacher gets through. The safety car literally came out as I came through the final corner. I cut across the median, I guess you could call it, and came into the pit lane, and I was just hoping I didn't get a penalty for it, because I don't know if you can in this game, because that was illegal in real life, but it didn't penalize me in the game. So next thing you know, I have a fresh set of soft compound tires on this car, and I have the biggest advantage of anybody. We were asking for luck coming into this Grand Prix. I think we got it, because now we have the softest compound on our car compared to the majority of the field that's on the hard compound tires, and this safety car allowed me to save enough fuel to where I can finally push. I finally have, you can see here, an extra lap of fuel by the time we were going green, so I can push as hard as I want for the rest of the Grand Prix as we get back underway here in Mexico. Things have kind of taken a bit of a twist here suddenly within the closing 10 laps underway. We're down in P20. Piastri's behind us in 22nd. Magnussen as well. You see Perez there defending over Sainz, overshoots turn 1 on the restart. He's dominated his home Grand Prix, but he's potentially thrown it away, just like he did in Silverstone to Carlos Sainz. They were battling there, and Sainz was able to overtake Perez after Perez had a big lockup in the final sector, but Perez is going to fight back here alongside the Spaniard here into the left-hander. They're side by side between Russell and Schumacher in the background. Something important to note as as we watch this battle. Sainz takes the lead of the Grand Prix, but actually George Russell picked up a time penalty after that incident, so he had a 5-second time penalty or a stop and go, but if he doesn't do the stop and go, he will have a 5-second time penalty added to his overall time at the end of the Grand Prix. So that is something to note right there. As myself on this restart, I got the elbows out. Ocon with the lockup. I went 3 wide in the middle between Latifi and Ocon, and I was able to make the pass. It's crazy what confidence suddenly can do to you here now, as we were all over the back towards the end of this lap on Sebastian Vettel. I did not want to lunge one up the inside of my favorite driver here in Formula 1 in a corner like that, but we did it anyways now, as we got to get a move on with it here now as well. Trying to make a move on Albon, but he makes a move first. I'm going to go around the outside of Lando Norris here, all over the back of Valtteri Bottas, who's on the soft compound tire as well. He had to pit for damage after that accident there with George Russell, but I get the elbows though. I'm going to go try and go the long way around of Bottas as well, wheel to wheel here, as we head down into the S's. Who's going to back out first? Bottas, in my opinion, had the right to the corner, but I kept my nose in there anyways. I went for it now, and we get up into 15th place, and now we're up into 13th by the end of the lap because of cars that had to come into the pits. That was Verstappen as well as Lance Stroll. So here comes Bottas, so back up my inside. We have a chance suddenly to score points. Bottas runs into the back, or into the right rear wheel of Albon. I'm going to hit the brakes right here and do the little switchback right here. I mean, that's a classic move I've made so many times in F1 2021, and we're doing it right here in that same chicane in F1 22. And now here we go, a chance to lunge up the inside of Albon. What a lunge that was right there. We have so much more grip here and stomping power on the soft compound tire. Like I said, it's amazing what confidence suddenly can do to you here, even in a video game now, as we had that confidence and we were now up at a P12, closing in on the back of Pierre Gasly. Yellow flags ahead coming to lap 32. It's for McLaren of Daniel Ricciardo, who's had a mechanical failure. McLaren again is out here, and that moves us up into the points. What a race this has suddenly turned into here now, as we come through to now a lap later. Yuki Tsunoda's now pulling over to the side of the circuit, and there you see the smoke pouring out of the back of his car. We're up to 9th place all of a sudden here, and we still have more speed than the AlphaTauri in front of us of Pierre Gasly, because we're on that soft compound tire compared to his hard compound tire, as the battle for the lead was heating up because Carlos Sainz has had a lock up into the left-hander, and that opened the door wide open for Perez to take the lead back here in his home Grand Prix. George Russell there all over the back of Sainz, but don't forget the 5-second time penalty that Russell is going to be given at the end of this race, because it's pretty evident he is not going to come into the pit lane here now, as we come to 3 laps to go down into turn 1. I'm going to try and go the long way around Pierre Gasly here, around the outside. Now we have the preferred lane into the chicane. We clear him. We move up into P8. What a race this has turned into for myself and this Trackhouse Racing team. Unfortunately, our teammate Piastri hasn't quite had as much fortune as myself here, as we came through to start the final lap here in the Mexican GP. What a Grand Prix. Like I said, this has suddenly been over the last 10 laps or so now, as we have to hold off Gasly here into turn 1. I have no battery left over, 0% into turn 1. He lunges one up the inside. We keep it around the outside, and we stay ahead of Gasly here now, as Sergio Perez is going to come through to win his home Grand Prix and back-to-back as well. Don't forget, and Sainz comes home second. Schumacher is going to end up on the podium due to Russell's 5-second time penalty. Mick Schumacher and Haas have landed on the podium. An unbelievable day for Schumacher and that Haas F1 team, as we come through now this final set of chicanes and now into the right-hander, and we are going to, for the second time this season, get points for Trackhouse Racing and our career best 8th place finish after an absolutely insane Grand Prix. It was looking like it was about a 17th place day for us, which was a little bit better than recently, but now it's going to be P8 after an unbelievable final closing 10, 11, 12 laps or whatever it was. Max Verstappen wins driver of the day. Let's head to the podium.
Red Bull pulling out all the stops today. What a great win. Well, Anthony Davidson, a resounding victory today, but what set them apart from the rest?
Well, they certainly stood out as a driver with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
The drivers are en route to the podium as we speak. What a fantastic win for the Red Bull team. They performed exceptionally today, keeping us firmly on the edge of our seats throughout the entirety of the race. Congratulations to everybody at the team.
How cool is that, seeing a Haas fire suit on the podium? We've never seen Haas on the podium in real life, and it would be such a cool sight if we could see, I don't care who it is, if it's Magnussen or Schumacher on the podium IRL, and that would just be such a cool sight to see. But honestly, I mean, Haas IRL is good enough this year to where if they have a really chaotic Grand Prix, kind of like we saw, say, back in, 2020 Monza when Pierre Gasly won, you can certainly see Haas have an opportunity to get a podium in a situation like that. So there you see the overall finishing order, and I didn't even realize Russell had a time penalty until the end of the Grand Prix, and that's where you're going to see me actually look at exactly what the grid penalty was for, and it was a 5-second time penalty for severe collision with Fernando Alonso. So although Alonso was the one that ran into him, he is the one getting the time penalty for that. But post-race, actually, now we have adapted all of our parts for sure. Every single part that needs to be adapted has been adapted. That is huge for us here. Now, as you can actually see me going through the chassis stuff saying, where's the fuel? I need to find where the whole fuel kind of, I guess, what's the fuel mileage upgrade is, and actually it was in the powertrain, of course. So that is an upgrade that we currently can't afford with the R&D, but it is going to be the next upgrade I make to this car because it is absolutely destroying. There you see it right there, by the way, the fuel flow regulator. But not having this upgrade is absolutely destroying us right now in terms of probably last half of a GP opportunity to be able to push the car. I can't push whatsoever, so that's frustrating. But what an episode to say the least here now, and if you guys enjoyed, you know what to do. In the next one, we head to the penultimate event in the Brazilian Grand Prix and for the final sprint race of the season as well. That does it for me. Thank you all for taking the time out of your day for watching this wild ending to an episode here in Mexico. I will see you guys in the next one in Brazil. Have a great day, everybody.